This story is about 4 ambitious students from Onitsha who embark on a life-changing journey to Lagos for a prestigious competition. Along the way, they encounter mysterious warnings, unexplained events, and a terrifying accident that lead to the death of many other passengers. Was it all coincidence? Or was there a deeper message in the chaos? Let's find out why you should pray before traveling in this story. In the rural town of Onitsha, nestled between rolling hills and rustling palm trees, 4 bright students, Nkechi, Nkem, Emeka, and Oma gathered around the weathered chalkboard. They stared at a freshly written notice that had just been pinned up by their teacher, Mr. Okoro. National Youth Educational Challenge in Lagos. Participants needed. Excitement rippled through the classroom like a sudden gust of wind. It wasn't every day that an opportunity to leave the confines of Onitsha presented itself. Many students had only heard stories of city life, tall buildings, bustling roads, and a seemingly endless horizon of possibilities. Now, the chance to explore it for themselves lay before them. Nkechi was the first to raise her hand, her eyes brimming with curiosity. Emeka followed, determined to prove his intellect in a wider arena. Nkem and Oma exchanged a nod, each longing to discover what lay beyond the horizon of their village. Mr. Okoro, proud of their enthusiasm, quickly penned down their names. Later that afternoon, as the 4 excited students walked home, an elderly woman who lived near the school gate beckoned them closer. Her name was Mama Theresa, and everyone in Onitsha respected her wisdom. "My children," she said in her soft, raspy voice, "I hear you are traveling soon. Remember, the road can be full of surprises, both good and bad. Always pray before you embark on a journey. Ask for guidance so that your path remains clear." Little did they know how important her words would become. Early the next morning, the 4 friends gathered in the school courtyard to finalize travel plans. The principal, a strict but caring man named Mr. Obi, had arranged for a minibus to take them to Lagos. For most of them, it would be their first time traveling beyond the neighboring towns. While the students were excited, they also felt a twinge of nervousness. Nkechi worried about leaving her sick grandmother behind. Nkem fretted over his younger siblings, who depended on him after school. Emeka couldn't help but think of the unknown dangers of the city. And Oma wondered how she would fit in, coming from such a small village. "Are we sure we are ready for this?" Oma asked the group, her voice shaking. She clutched her backpack as if it were a lifeline. Nkem responded with quiet determination, "We have to be brave. This is our chance to learn, to prove ourselves. But I won't lie, I am scared too." When they met after classes to pack up supplies like sandwiches, water bottles, notebooks, and modest clothes, Mama Theresa appeared again. She rested a hand on Nkechi's shoulder. "Remember, prayer is like an anchor," she said. "It keeps you steady in a raging storm." Each student offered a shy nod, swallowing the weight of her words. Yet as the evening sun set over Onitsha, their minds were filled with swirling questions. They would soon discover just how crucial that anchor of prayer could be. The day broke with a warm glow that spread across the sky, painting it in hues of pink and gold. The minibus rumbled outside the school gates, its engine sound so loud as if awakening from a long slumber. Mr. Obi stood by, checking off a list of supplies and making sure all the necessary permits were in place. The 4 students climbed into the vehicle, hearts pounding with anticipation. Nkechi waved at her grandmother, who had come to bid her farewell. The elderly woman, leaning on her wooden cane, whispered a silent prayer under her breath. Emeka's mother handed him a small, battered Bible, while Nkem's father clasped his son's shoulder in a wordless gesture of encouragement. Oma's younger sister ran up to the window, tears in her eyes, handing over a handmade beaded bracelet for luck. As the bus set off, a hush settled over the travelers. They watched their familiar village recede into the distance. The weathered huts, the dusty roads, and the endless stretch of farmland. Thoughts of Mama Theresa's advice about prayer lingered in their minds, but in the rush of departure, none of them had offered a proper one. About an hour into the journey, the bus turned onto a narrow path. Suddenly, the engine coughed and sputtered, forcing the driver to pull over. "We must check what's going on," Mr. Obi said, worry creasing his brow. It was only the first in a series of events that would test the students' resolve and their faith. With the bus stalled on the roadside, the group decided to stretch their legs. Dry savanna grass stretched out in every direction, occasionally broken by clusters of thorny bushes. The driver tinkered under the hood, muttering about a faulty gasket. Everyone else stood around uncertainly, hoping for a quick fix. As the heat intensified, they spotted a lone figure in the distance. The figure drew closer, and they saw an elderly man dressed in simple robes and a broad straw hat. He carried a worn leather bag slung across his shoulder. "Good morning," he greeted them politely, a hint of curiosity in his voice. "It seems you're having some trouble." "Yes," Mr. Obi hurriedly answered, explaining their predicament, and the stranger offered a sympathetic nod. "Sometimes, when we rush onto the road without acknowledging the spirits of travel, the journey can become complicated." His words hung in the air, echoing Mama Theresa's caution. "In my village, we never start a trip without first offering prayers." Though the man seemed harmless, a shiver ran down Oma's spine. His presence felt uncanny. Still, desperation outweighed suspicion. The teacher asked if the man could help. "Perhaps," the old man replied, dipped his hands inside his bag and gave the driver a small vial of oil. "Try adding a drop of this to the engine," he suggested. The driver, half skeptical, followed the instruction. He poured a drop of the oil to the engine of the bus, and within minutes, the bus roared back to life. Nkem's eyes widened, and he exchanged a meaningful glance with Nkechi. Maybe there was more to these prayers and rituals than they had realized. Back on the road, the minibus rattled toward a small roadside market where the group stopped to buy water and snacks. The old man from earlier had disappeared into the vastness of the savannah, leaving only questions in his wake. Had his vial of oil truly fixed their bus? Or was it just a coincidence? At the market, the driver parked under a broad acacia tree to escape the scorching sun. While Mr. Obi sorted out payment for provisions, the four students wandered among colorful stalls brimming with handmade crafts, roasted peanuts, and dried fish. The stall owners chatted in local dialects, occasionally switching to English to entice potential buyers. Near a table laden with fresh fruits, a woman wrapped in bright Okoro fabric caught their attention. She was with a megaphone preaching to travelers and passer-by. Suddenly they heard her say, "Travelers, beware the corners of the road. Pray not just at the start but every step of the way. Misfortune can strike when you least expect." Her tone was urgent, and her eyes shone with an otherworldly glimmer. A sense of unease settled over them. But before Emeka could ask for clarification, the woman vanished into the crowd. They hurried back to the bus, hands full of purchases, minds brimming with new warnings. Each student felt a growing tension, a collective recognition that they might be overlooking something important. Still, they told themselves they were simply being cautious. There was a competition to reach, after all. They had no idea what awaited them further down the road. The minibus entered the main highway, flanked by tall eucalyptus trees on one side and expansive farmland on the other. Nkem and Emeka were in the back seat, excitedly discussing strategies for the upcoming competition. Nkechi flipped through her notebook, reviewing math problems. Oma stared out the window, watching the scenery blur into a tapestry of dust and greenery. Just as they continued the journey, a very loud horn erupted behind them. A large truck, loaded high with crates of farm produce, moved dangerously close to their own bus. The driver of the minibus panicked and swerved to avoid a collision. Tires screeched, and passengers lurched forward, heartbeats pounding in their ears. For a terrifying moment, it seemed they would crash into a row of roadside stalls. Mr. Obi shouted for everyone to brace themselves. Just as they thought they have escaped danger, suddenly they hit another petrol tanker on the other side of the road. An accident occurred which led to the death of almost every other student in the bus. But luckily Nkechi, Nkem, Emeka, Oma, Mr. Obi and the driver survived without having any scratch. Shaken and breathless, the students realized how close they had come to tragedy. Mr. Obi attempted to calm everyone. Nkechi closed her eyes, recalling Mama Theresa's words, "Always pray before you embark on a journey." Though they had offered silent prayers in their hearts during the turmoil, they now wondered if it was time to make those prayers more intentional. Perhaps the lessons of their elders carried weight they could no longer ignore. Under the shade of a large neem tree, Nkem spoke first, voice shaky but determined. "This journey has had too many warnings and close calls. Maybe we should..." He paused, uncertain how to phrase it. Nkechi finished his sentence gently. "Pray." One by one, they nodded. Even the driver, who prided himself on his mechanical skills and worldly knowledge, removed his cap in quiet agreement. Mr. Obi led them in a simple prayer, asking for safe journey, guidance, and protection from unseen dangers. A warm breeze stirred the leaves overhead, as if acknowledging their plea. When they concluded, it felt as though an invisible weight had lifted. Emeka suggested they each share something they felt grateful for. "I'm grateful for my mother," he said. "Her faith taught me to see hope even in darkness." Nkem expressed gratitude for the chance to explore beyond Onitsha, while Oma thanked everyone for their friendship. Nkechi spoke last, her voice steady. "I'm thankful for the warnings we've received. Without them, who knows what might have happened." Rejuvenated by their collective prayer and shared appreciation, they managed to join another bus, with the determination of arriving Lagos for the competition, prepared to face the road ahead with renewed resolve. By late afternoon, the sprawling outskirts of Lagos came into view. Towering buildings replaced the humble huts, and the dusty roads of Onitsha gave way to asphalt lanes brimming with cars, motorcycles, and countless pedestrians. The air buzzed with loud horns, street vendors shouting, and construction clamor. For the students, it was both thrilling and overwhelming. Nkem marveled at the skyscrapers that scraped the clouds. Oma cringed at the thick, smoggy air and clung to her seat, worried they'd hit one of the fearless motorcyclists weaving through traffic. Emeka craned his neck to take in every billboard advertising new gadgets and fast food chains. Nkechi tried to capture the moment in a small notebook, sketching the outlines of the bustling city. Despite their excitement, the reality of Lagos tested their resilience. Traffic snarled for hours, and impatient drivers cut across lanes with reckless abandon. At one junction, a persistent street hawker nearly shoved his basket of peanuts through the bus window, hoping for a quick sale. Exhausted and hungry, the group felt their earlier confidence wane. Still, they pressed on, navigating the tangle of roads until they finally reached the cramped guest house arranged by the competition organizers. The interior was modest, with peeling paint and thin mattresses, but it was a place to rest, something they needed desperately. Before they turned in for the night, Mr. Obi reminded them, "Tomorrow is the big day. Let's not forget the power of prayer. We have seen its importance already." Morning dawned in a flurry of nerves and excitement. The students wore their best uniforms and polished their shoes. Each clutched a folder of notes and equations, determined to represent Onitsha with pride. The competition venue, a sprawling conference center, bustled with teams from all over the country. Inside, colorful banners proclaimed the event's theme, empowering the next generation. The hall buzzed with chatter in multiple languages, and a palpable sense of anticipation filled the air. Standing on a makeshift stage at the front, a panel of judges explained the contest rules. Participants would face rounds of questions, from mathematics and science to history and literature. Nkechi's face lit up when she solved a tricky arithmetic question within seconds. Emeka tackled a complex physics problem with unwavering focus. Nkem navigated historical facts effortlessly, and Oma drew on her love for storytelling to ace a literature segment. Their synergy was evident, and Mr. Obi beamed with pride. Just when it seemed they were on the cusp of victory, an unexpected announcement crackled through the speakers. A sudden tropical stormed the venue, and all attendees were advised to stay indoors until it passed. The conference center's lights flickered ominously, and thunder rumbled in the distance. The final round was postponed, leaving everyone in tense limbo. Rain hammered against the building, and the students huddled together. "We should pray," whispered Oma, her voice echoing the lesson they'd been learning on this journey. As sheets of rain lashed the windows and the storm raged, the students and Mr. Obi found a quiet corner in the conference center. They bowed their heads, each offering silent and spoken prayers for safety, calm, and clarity. Around them, other teams and organizers did the same, reflecting a collective hope that the storm would soon subside. Soon, the thunder's roar diminished to a distant rumble. The rain gentled to a soft patter. A sense of relief swept through the hall, and the final round of the competition was announced to resume in 10 minutes. Heartbeats quickened as the contestants reassembled on stage, adrenaline mixing with renewed faith. The questions came fast and hard, but the Onitsha team was ready. Nkechi tackled complex math problems with precision. Emeka handled physics queries confidently. Nkem breezed through history and current affairs, and Oma wowed the judges with her eloquence. Their collective prayers and preparation coalesced into a poised performance. When the scores were tallied, Onitsha emerged triumphant, securing first place among dozens of talented teams. Applause thundered through the hall, matching the earlier roar of the storm. With tears in their eyes, the students and Mr. Obi accepted the trophy. That evening, as they prepared to journey back home, Mama Theresa's words echoed in their hearts. Always pray before you embark on a journey. Their safe arrival in Lagos, their brush with danger, and their ultimate victory all stood as proof. Faith and prayer guide the traveler on roads seen and unseen, an invaluable lesson they would carry forward for the rest of their lives. How many times have you stepped onto a bus, a plane, or into a car without thinking twice? This story is a reminder that life is unpredictable, and prayer could be the shield that protects you from the unseen. Imagine how many lives could be saved if they had a collective prayer session together before traveling. But some students lost their lives on the way while others survived. Is this a coincidence, or the silent prayer the survivors had before the journey? Before your next journey, take a moment to pray. You never know what dangers lie ahead. If you found this story powerful, don't keep it to yourself. Hit the like button, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring and thought-provoking stories. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our latest stories. Your support helps us keep sharing these important messages. Stay safe, stay blessed,